So we are at the Elimination's cable car top station. It's 10 p.m. We're downloading Damien's GoPro images and create some nice content, and then we're gonna go to bed. Tomorrow we start the race again.
How the conditions develop, but it looks very good for flying.
Yesterday was a nice day. I think I fly well. I'm already at 2,700 meters and I will wait for the thermal. Hope it will work because I don't want to hike.
Hello and good evening to our wrap-up news show with me, Tarquin Cooper, and Gavin McClurg. What a day it has been. We've got 32 athletes out on the course line, spread out between 3 countries, Italy, Switzerland and France now. Just in the last hour, the lead gaggle has pushed through into France as a whole. A load of them have just cleared Martigny. Gavin, your day began in Nice. Can you give us a sense of the atmosphere that you experienced
It was
up
pretty
there?
magical. You know, it really reminded me of the last edition in 23. It's so beautiful up there. Everything about it is, you know, the pyramid of Switzerland, but there was a huge crowd today, much bigger than the last one. And it's electric, right? It's beautiful. The cloud base, when I got there, was just below the top of the peak. And Mitchie Maurer, you know, Kriegel Maurer's brother, was up there doing some test flying and wing testing, and everybody was just anticipating. And you remember, last night we thought they would be there maybe as early as 11, and then we thought 1, and then we thought 2, and they didn't really arrive until well after 3. So there was a lot of anticipation, a lot of waiting, and then when it happened, it was like a bomb going off. It was, and you were there then. It was pretty crazy.
I mean, well, that's the thing. My day started at the top of Descentis Edron, and initially when I got down the mountain, I was thinking, I'm going to just have to gun it to through Italy into to Mont Blanc, and I'm pretty glad I didn't. The day when I got to the Furka Pass, everything had slowed down. Quite a few athletes had landed. Damien Lacaze was hiking on the road. Tim Alongi, he had a quick slope land and then relaunched. I caught up with the race director, Ferdy Vogel, and he explained that, yeah, it just wasn't strong on that side of the hill. It was weak. On the other side, on the Rhone side, it was working much better. But I think we need to kind of explain just how difficult this leg of the route was for athletes. I mean, if you're kind of like a regular paraglider pilot,
when I interviewed everybody at the Nice and said, you know, how was today? They were all it was interesting because they were all said things like pleasant, but also technical and difficult and slow. I think it was really not what any of us were expecting. It was quite tricky. You know, there was a lot of hiking and flying and top landing and hiking and getting over a pass. And Kriegel's day was really interesting. I think when he got over the Furka and started flying, it looked like, okay, here's the race. Here's what he does every time.
Yeah, it was like he's made his magic move. He hiked up to the Furka, unlike the others.
Here we go. And that line he flew, you know, Tom Payne, who's a real historian of this race, messaged me and said that hasn't been flown since 2005. I didn't think it had ever been flown. I hadn't seen that line, and in the beginning I thought, what is he doing? Where's he going? That's really high terrain. And when you look at it on Google Earth, Simone said later that it was actually quite spooky because there was nowhere to land back in there. I mean, you're in proper glaciated country.
Well, he did have his support team said he did have a backup plan, which was he had someone else with him who was a mountain guide. So he was anticipating potentially, you know, the plan B. Sure. He always talks about the plan B, Kriegel. What's the plan B? What's the plan B? And he had a mountain guide with him so that he would stay within the rules and he'd be able to hike. But Patrick, I talked to him first thing in the morning, and he sort of explained that it was almost like threading a needle. You've got all these airspace. You're kind of going through a tunnel, he said. And he's someone who knows about going through tunnels. If you haven't seen that clip, you should look it up. But, you know, you've got airspace above you. Basically, got a ceiling above your head. You can't go high. And you can't, in some of these places in the national park, if you land, you can't then relaunch. So you're kind of stuffed. And it just seems, and the airspace is all along the way to Nice. And
before the show, you asked me to look into the airspace, and I pulled it up on my phone, and I actually can't figure it out. It's just overlays and overlays and overlays. And I mean, this is one of those where if I'd been in the race, Revis would have had, my supporter would have had to hand me written notes. Okay, here you can't do this, and here you can't do this, and it's really complicated.
And we should explain that, you know, some you know, athletes are good at this, some just aren't. I mean, I was on the train, the funicular with Aaron's team, And you know, Aaron is supported by one of his oldest like school friends, and it's quite it's quite sweet. But yeah, absolutely hopeless, Aaron. I wouldn't have a clue which way to you know, even look at a computer. I mean, just doesn't know anything about instruments and just flies on feeling. So you know, the whole airspace thing is pretty challenging. But in the end, it was Toby Gross-Rabacha who triumphed and was first on the turn point. And what an athlete he is! You know, he's been in the race since 2017, so this is his 5th edition. He's had one top 10, I think it was in 2021, if I got my notes right. He was 8th then, and he finished the race last edition. And you know, he's someone who doesn't really attract the headlines, but what a strong athlete he is, still only 31 years old. And yeah, I think he deserves a little bit of credit for his day.
He and I spent a lot of time together in the 3 races we did together in 2017, 2019, 2021. We were constantly back and forth. And I don't remember which one's which, but I think in 2017 he beat me by 1, and then 2019 I beat him by 1, and 2021 the other way around. But he's really solid. He's got a great head for this game. And last edition at the top of the Nissan, I saw him top land actually at the turn point, which I can't tell you. A couple people did it later tonight too. You were up there with me. There's no space. It's just the top of a big rocky dome, and there's all the flags, and there's all the people, and all the boulders, and it's a really technical place. And when they came in, it was him and Tim Alongi and Seaman Oberauer. They landed up there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when it was a heater up there. It was moving. The air was moving around. This was in 23, and he's got moves. He's really solid. He's safe. He's smart. He's having a good time.
And here's another curious detail. He broke the hike and fly record in 2018 to just over 12,000 meters. Tongi took that to 17,500 meters now, that record. But anyway, those guys, actually, we should mention where those guys are. They've gone through the past Martigny, which is always notorious for those valley winds that everyone talks about. Remember, previous editions, athletes always get hammered by these strong wind systems that just turbines charge through those big valleys. I mean, I looked at Aaron's track a moment ago. He was going at 60 kilometers an hour. I think they're all on the ground now. I have seen some video footage actually of Toby and Christian Schug looking like they weren't making a lot of forward speed, let's put it like that. But I believe everyone is down on the ground safely now, and they'll be pretty relieved with that.
And they're in a great
now,
position. You know, I kind of cut my teeth in Verbier all those years ago, and that, we call it the Massif. You know, when they're all just past Orsières, and that's a huge, long 60, 70K east-facing big cliff that is on the east side of Mont Blanc. And they're in a really good position for a very early start. They're in a nice spot. They were able to make the most of the day. We of course thought they were going to get quite a bit further when the morning started, but it was just slow going. It was technical, it was difficult, but they've charged along. When at the top of the Nissan, we had the top 15 arrive there pretty tight. There's a little more separation now, but this lead gaggle is staying together and making it work.
So in that lead gaggle, we've got Patrick Van Kennel, Aaron Duragatti, Remy Baudel, Tanguy Renaud, Simon O'Browner, Lars Meerstetter is there, and Tim Alongi, as you mentioned. And also, you know, despite his mistake, despite everything, he still managed to catch up, and he is still in that lead group.
Yeah,
Kriegel-Maurer.
Go ahead.
Well, Gavin, you take it away.
It really could have been a magic move. He showed the way, and then when it didn't work, he had to retreat. When you look at his track log, this is one of the things I'm so impressed with Kriegel all the time. He's always, he's going to go back. He's going to do everything it takes to stay in the air. He went back, he worked and worked and worked and worked, and he still had to land. He still had to get out of there. And he lost that big advantage this morning, but then there he is. You know, he's just calm and collected and always the professional, and he's right in there, right in the hunt.
Gavin, we've been gassing long enough. I think people want to see some cool flying footage. Here's 45 seconds from Damien Lacaz's head camera.
on va passer la crête frontière. Et droit devant nous là, et ça c'est le globe Grotner, le point culminant de l'Autriche. C'est trop beau, on est tous là. Il y a Max un petit peu au-dessus là qui nous contrôle. Le coureur là qui nous contrôle. Démentiel. Et on est en 56 km/h. Là, voilà le putain. 4.3 au-dessus du globe Grotner. C'est démentiel. Je suis congelé, mais c'est démentiel. On essaie de raccrocher la armure devant là. Là il y a Max juste là.
So Gavin, we're at the end of day 4. I don't know about you, but I've kind of forgotten what day of the week it is. What's it like for an athlete now, 4 days in? I remember once talking to Nelson de Freeman, who said, after 3 days, your brain just stops working and you're kind of driven, you know, by remote control, by your supporter. Can you give a sense of like the fatigue now that's starting to set in?
I did this thing with everybody that came into the Nissan today and just described the race in 3 words. And several of them said exhausted or tired. So this is truly where it kicks in. There's been videos on social for many of the teams that the amount of meters that they're doing. There's been a lot of hiking, a lot of road miles, and they're tired. And so this is when that really kicks in. And you're feeling it.
Yeah, I mean, they have to take, the rules state that they have to take 7 hours of mandatory rest. But of course, athletes can pick and choose when to take that rest.
And you just don't need to, you don't need to think so much. Just follow the sky, do what you know what to do. Just run it on autopilot and spend the least amount of time on the ground, because now it starts to hurt.
That's right. Gavin, apologies if there was a little bit of overlap there. If you heard that, just a couple we had perhaps a little bit of a lag in the data. But I was just saying that in the rules, of course, athletes have to take a minimum of 7 hours rest. And a new feature, a new addition to the rule from last edition was they can choose when to stop and when to start. But what's interesting, many athletes choose to sleep longer. Or not lie in, but take that rest to the full advantage, and sometimes rest for 7-8 hours.
I think that I love this rule. I love that it's a sliding rule, that it's not just a set period, so you can really work your plan and your strategy around the mandatory rest period. But this was something that Kriegel really pushed for a long time, and I think one of the things we've been discussing a lot with this edition is safety. And this is just super critical. You know, it used to be back in the day that there were very, very few rules and you could just go the whole time. But what happens inevitably is you fall behind. You take less and less rest, which of course is more and more risk, less and less safety to try to catch up. And then how you do well in this game is fly well, and you just can't fly well if you're exhausted. So I love that they've incorporated this. I love that you can incorporate it into your strategy and work it around where you want to be in the aspect and the height, where you want to be for the launch the next day. So it's a great rule. I fully support it, and I think the athletes take really good advantage of it, and they can really work it into their plan.
So we should finish up the broadcast by giving a little last update. From today, the big news, well, one of the big announcements is that we've lost the elimination of Mexico's Hugo Alvarez, who is eliminated as the athlete in last place. And it turned into a furious battle at the back between him and the Netherlands' Siebrand Warren. At one point, Siebrand thought he was safe. He was 25k ahead, and Hugo put in a really valiant effort, caught up within a few kilometers. And one extraordinary fact is just how determined they are. You know, Siebrand hiked something like 60 kilometers through the night just to stay ahead, and he succeeded in doing that. Yeah, it was
vicious. You know, Siebrand's supporter, Tom Peake, called me this morning and said, hey, you guys got to do a story on Hugo. We've never seen anybody charge this hard. And one of the really funny things about the story was that Andre Prochaska didn't pull his night pass because he had so much leeway. He just thought, you know, he did the math, the team did the math and said, there's no way that Hugo can get us. And they woke up at 4 o'clock at the end of their mandatory rest period, and and I guess it was just a madhouse on the team. He packed real quick, an instrument on, and go, dude, go, sprint, sprint, sprint. He's going to catch you, and he almost did. And so I think he put in an incredibly valiant effort, maybe one of the most valiant efforts to not get eliminated in the history of the race. So huge love to you, Hugo. We love to see that, just going to your last breath, giving it your all, and I can't wait to see you in the next race.
Gavin, final word on what tomorrow has in store. Clearly the lead gaggle is going to get to Mont Blanc, get that turn point up at the Monzino Hut after completing the third Via Ferrata of this route. But what's the weather looking like? I heard some rumours of rain along the way.
Might be positioned okay for the rain, but there's definitely, there's pretty high Cape values. That's convective available potential energy is what that stands for, but we've definitely got...
Well, what does that mean?
Sorry.
Wait.
That just
what
means
does that mean?
There's enough moisture in the atmosphere that when the heating starts, it turns into a lot of cloud, which then turns into precipitation. So we're going to get some precipitation tomorrow. The leaders between Mont Blanc and south down to Les Deux Alpes, it looks better, so they might beat it. But they'll also, interestingly, this is the second time this has happened just in this race, in these 4 days, it looks pretty good in the back. So those that are fighting at the back and fighting to not get eliminated the next day, we got another elimination, right, after tomorrow, it looks pretty good. So I think we're going to have some pretty feisty racing tomorrow. But is it going to be huge? We'll have to see.
The race continues. Well, that's it from us. Thank you, Gavin. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow with our usual broadcast times. See you then. Thanks and goodbye.